Okay, so as we're saying, so today's session is around resilient roots and these seeds that are sown to soar. So with that, I wanted to really talk through 6 different pillars as a bit of a snapshot today. And then the first pillar that I was going to talk about is this fortified blackness. So let's move into that. So my definition of what I think fortified blackness is that, well, in this concept, fortified blackness it's almost like a transformational program, which I am all about ensuring that we empower individuals, yes, companies of the global majority through this aspect of fearless fortitude. And so when we were talking about fortitude, we were talking about how it is this strengthening, this empowering, and it's being that despite the fear. So it's not to say that, and that's why it's fearless, because the fear exists, but it doesn't stop you from taking any action. And then this empowered resilience, and I talk about empowered resilience because for me, a lot of people talk about resilience, but forget the empowered aspect, which is that you have the choice to stand up there and fight it, or be resilient to it, or to know that you need to conserve your power for another day, your energy for another day. And then that whole strategic success. I was trying to think of another R that went with resilience, because I like you've seen the fearless fortitude, strategic success, but I couldn't think of anything. Empowered resilience is the only one. So it's a program that I'm really interested in sharing, but definitely for me, the fortified blackness is that aspect of being strong or sort of like standing firm in your identity as blackness, whatever that is. And so for me, blackness is understanding that there are shades of blackness. It's not that somebody is black or white. There are aspects of blackness, is the best way. We'll talk about that a bit more. So I've got here, and I wanted to just talk through some of the different pillars. So the theme, as I said, it's the resilient roots sown to soar, and it's where anybody that comes through it, and it will be embedding this within SBBN. It's how we are, and that's the resilient roots bit of it. It's where we are actually grounded in our identity. We are fortified again in our blackness, which enables us to then reach these higher heights and go for these achievements because we're quite grounded. And for me, I talk a lot about ancestral strength and their resilience, because for me, my parents give me so much sort of strength and empowerment, knowing some of the things that they went through. And even in my lifetime, watching some of the stuff that they went through, that it's not to say that it makes what I experience any less, but it just lets me see that people have, our race has, like we were speaking before, that's got that legacy, that fortified legacy. So for me, what I wanted to talk about is, where do people feel most fortified at this moment in their business or their life?
Yeah, just a quick one. Joy, can you hear us now? Joy Omena, you're in. Okay. Can you hear us? I think yes. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, so I was saying, where do people feel most fortified in their business or their life at this moment? And we'll do it in 2 parts. So the first bit is, where do you feel more fortified? And then next we'll think about where you might feel less fortified or maybe a bit depleted. So should we go around again? David, do you want to start with that? Should I come to?
I think you should come back to me. Just
Fine.
So where do I feel most fortified? I think my family is, as an African, as a Black person, we're very communal, we're very collectivist. So yeah, I do feel that, I have a social support I can always call on. So that keeps me fortified. Where do I feel least fortified? Well,
where you have to armor up.
Well, I mean, I'm a black man in a white man's world. Or I don't know how to put it. Like it is what it is. Like yesterday, I mean, I'll just share, right? Since we're at this point, but yesterday there was something I had applied for, and everything was, I'd done my best to get all the information. I kept hitting the brick wall, and I just saw, I saw other people, white folks getting a pass for it. And I got an email yesterday that, I didn't get, and I was so angry. I was very angry, and I was like, dude, I was going to do this, but anyway, all I'm saying. So yeah. So when I'm out there, sometimes in institutions where you're unfamiliar with, yeah, you do feel unresilient, if I can use the word. Yeah.
Then to you, please, Carol.
I guess it's kind of similar, really. The community, I feel when I'm out in my community, I mean, I love July, August because it's
Yeah.
carnival season for me. So, even walking around, where were we weekend? I'm trying to think where I was. Derby. Were we in Derby? No, Birmingham this weekend, wasn't it? Just standing there watching Luciano on the stage and my people around me, everybody's resonating, singing along, and yeah, that having that strength, and even though you don't have to talk to people, we're all on the same sheet. My family get me, some of them. But, yeah. Least resilient. I guess it is. For me at the moment, I mean, I'm as you all know, I'm on a campaign for sickle cell at the moment, so I want people to understand what our warriors are going through, and I want them to do something about it. And it's really heartbreaking when you're hearing that we're losing warriors here and there, and when they shouldn't be dying now. We shouldn't be having young people dying because of sickle cell and because of ignorance from institutions. So I guess that's when you feel less so, because even, your education, your experience, your knowledge, your powers, blah, 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 it doesn't make that better. And I know that our voices are making a difference, but I'm just saying how we get that collective voice together so that we can have that shift is where we're not yet, and that makes me feel less. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I would approach it from this paradoxical point of view. So for me, there is a side of boldness that also flips to sometimes fear or inadequacy, or a sense of inadequacy. For a Black person, for instance, it is innate. There's that sense of boldness, especially if you're of the Nigerian. We need to fear anything. Sorry to use that. Come up against anything. On face value. If you have to go deep, But so you get sometimes thrown into it, and you're like, the reality is, confronting you, and sometimes you walk away. Maybe not completely, you stagger, and you're trying to want to find your feet. So there's this flip of the same coin, So on one side, you have your resilience, you have your fortitude, you're fortified, you can face it. But the reality hits, and then like, okay, can I really face it?
Yeah.
Like, there's a phrase that Gabby had used once, I don't know if it's original to have. In one of our poems, as a Black person, you're in the room, you are noticed that you are ignored.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So is that thing, I don't mind being noticed, but nobody likes being ignored.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you deal with that paradox of, okay, you put yourself forward at a risk, for what price?
Yeah.
So that's the dilemma. I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
No,
Totally. Yeah.
I'd say for myself, areas that I'm more structured in is knowing who I am.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still a level that I can delve into to really get into that understanding and exploring that. But I think one thing for me is, obviously we live in Stoke, which is predominantly a white area, and I live in Talkpit, so I kind of naturally grew up around
just white people, middle class people, and in a sense, obviously, I didn't know sometimes it's okay to have your own struggles, and as much as I hate to admit, there's certain struggles as a people that we go through that aren't experienced in other ethnic areas. So it's similar to what you were saying. Is like when you're striving, even in the business sense, when you're striving towards something, whether it's a business or you step into these meetings and you're the only black person in there, there's kind of a sense of like not fear necessarily, because what am I feeling, but it's like the judge, that bias and understanding that you also as a person, beyond race, you deserve to be in this room. You deserve to. You've got something to value. You've got something to offer. And being confident in yourself that you can provide these things, not just as a black person, but in yourself. That's one area that I'd say. It's not like I'm being suppressed, but I feel like I've been so confined to being not isolated, but in a box. Trying to break out of the box. It can be quite difficult. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. That makes sense. Gabby, can I come to you first, and then Joy, I'll come to you second. So it's thinking about where you feel fortified in business or life at the moment, and where you feel maybe most depleted, let's say, or less fortified, where you have to maybe armor up to get through. Gabby, do you want to start? And then I'll go to you, Joy. Okay, maybe Joy, I'll go to you first, and then I'll go to Gabby. Oh, wicked.
Okay, so I didn't get that quite right. Where I feel fortified. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel in the uni, in the school environment, that is where I feel fortified. And when I'm around most of my African people, I also feel, I get the vibes, and I also, with them around, I also feel, fortified as well, because I know seeing them around gives me that confidence that I'm not alone, and it's not I don't need to navigate into getting something. Whatever I need, I might just ask them, and they will just open up and tell me this is the way out, and that's the way I feel fortified. In the uni, you speak to people, get to know people, you get some information from your lecturers. If you ask them things that you're going through, what you're going through, they will just explain to you. You get more information. Most of the informations I've gotten is just from the uni, I would say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
And where would you say you feel most maybe depleted, Joy?
Let me say, like I said, when I'm around my African people, I feel fortified. So the opposite. When I'm so when I'm in the opposite area, I'm like, oh God, what should I do? What's going on? I need to navigate. I need to know what is happening. If I am being sold out or something is wrong, So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joy.
Yeah.
Peggy, hiya, welcome. We've been talking about the resilient roots that with seeds that are sown to soar, and what we've been exploring is one of the first pillars, which I've called Fortified Blackness. So we've just discussed what we think Fortified Blackness is, and it's around sort of being I'm going to summarize it really quite succinctly: being comfortable in our own skin. We've had lots of really interesting conversations, but the crux of it is just being comfortable in our skin, whatever situation we're in, and looking at our identity and our culture. And then we've just been talking about where we might feel fortified and where we might not feel fortified. Are you in a space where you can share when you feel fortified, Peggy?
Hi, Monica, and hello to
lovely.
everybody. Hello. Yeah, so do you mean fortified, like fortified? Fortified or fortified?
Yeah, what would you say fortified means to you, Peggy?
Okay, I would say fortified, first of all, would begin from the mindset. Okay, because I think that's one of the first pillar that we need to first of all have as Black people. We need to, and that is the beginning step of being confident in our own skin. Because when we have that mindset of that fortification, then that gives us the confidence, it gives us the boost to step on and ask. I just heard Joy talked about, like, in the student environment, you know, when she approached the lecturers and all of that. So it's all about being confident in who we are and being confident in the voice that we have to speak. Because I think that one thing that we face, and which I've seen in most of our community, it's not because we're not knowledgeable, it's not because we're not competent or we don't know what we want and what we can do. We have all the skills, the talents, the know-how, think of anything, we know it. But I feel that mindset of feeling that we have that some sort of inferiority complex when we are when we're in a room of maybe people who are different colors than us, for some reason, that tickling, that voice, you know, at the back of the head of some of us, we feel like, oh no, that person is superior than me, so I might shrink and all of that. But no. What I've noticed in most of those events is that those people in that color, they're actually afraid, not afraid, I wouldn't use the word afraid. They also suffer from inferiority complex. And all what we need to do is just, again, that mindset of boosting ourselves up and say, you know what, I can stand with my shoulders high and speak and ask what I need, and I will be granted. So I feel that for me, like I said, it's the mindset, first of all. Yeah, we need to start from the mindset.
Lovely, thank you. To be fair, that is, Gabby, are you there? Can you comment on whether or not where you feel fortified and where you don't? Okay. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm going to move on then. Okay, so Peggy, you gave me a really beautiful way to sort of lead into the next pillars. So the Fortified Blackness, please play around with these names because I'm going to play around with the names. So the Fortified Blackness for me is that key one where we start to do that internal investigation, because I do feel it is about being really clear on our identity. That is like almost the foundational pillar, which then allows people to build from that. So that Fortified Blackness is about that Black identity I was talking as we've been exploring now. So the next one, I've said it's about that dawning, but to be fair, I'm lying. And the fact that Peggy spoke about what I really wanted to call it, I wanted to call it it's basically break the lie of white superiority and Black inferiority. So I might actually just call it that instead, because for me it is about just breaking down, and even sometimes that sort of thinking that we as a Black collective will hold about ourselves and this Black inferiority. And it is, as I said, this almost like internalized racism and the colonial trauma that we all have in our bloodline, if that makes sense. And just really rebuilding all of that sort of collective respect, that collective identity, that self-worth that we should have as Black people, if that makes sense. The next one is around talking about our ancestral resilience. So that is really looking at what our mothers, forefathers went through in order for us to exist. And I remember somebody saying to me, they've got a magic figure as to how many people it required for me to be alive today. And it counts out, you know, like my parents, my parents' parents, my parents' parents' parents. And it just counts it out as to all the people that had to fight their own struggles to bring me into existence, you know, to bring my parents into existence. So it just starts to make you realize that we have achieved as Black people, as a Black race, we have achieved, we have already accomplished and overcome so much despite what has happened. So it's building on that resilience. And then the next one is grit and grace, which I'm probably going to do as a little podcast. I was doing another one before, but I like the grit and grace actually. And it's about really developing those personal resilience and that pose, and being able to sort of cultivate in a way our emotional intelligence and to think of things strategically. So I think it was Joy, you were talking about how to, if you're not around your, if you're not in the African community, how might you phrase things or ask for things? Because I know for myself, I would come across as the angry Black woman, so I have to really think about how I'm going to say things. So that's something that we sort of look at as well, our grit and grace, and building those tools for sort of self-care, healing, and being able to truly thrive rather than surviving. The next one is really just about thinking about how to find dignity and triumph in adversity. And I feel for me, lots of different things that I've gone through over, not even my lifetime, because that's like just going to take us too long, but literally in the last 2 years, some of the hard-hitting things that I've experienced directly related to my race, but still being able to find like a message in the mess, if that makes sense, or still be able to, despite people wanting badness for me, still make it, you know, still be able to multiply from it, is what I think is being able to find that diamond in the rough, or get the crown from the struggle. So it's understanding that this part of my journey, or this part of our journey, is an ongoing process of growth and reclamation. It's not going to be, this is it. We are more than maybe the struggle, more than this moment, if that makes sense. And then just knowing that we've got this legacy that we're carrying for other people, because I feel like sometimes as Black people, we can, and this is quite a bit of a generalization, but I'm just going to say it because it's their business. There can be this scarcity mentality. So it's like, David, you mentioned about sometimes being the only Black person in the room. But for me, it's like, yes, I might be the only Black person in the room at that moment, but I'm holding the door open for other people to come in through my legs, under my arm, whatever. I'm holding it open for more of my, you know, people that have the same face as me to be reflected. And it's understanding that with it. So carrying stuff forward and creating those pathways for future generations, but also for our brothers and our sisters, not always just thinking about, you know, youngsters. Our equals right now also need to be part of that legacy journey. So yeah, these are just some of the things that we'll be conversing about. So I've got 3 main principles that I spoke about on fearless fortitude. So for me, I can see us creating a space where we can share our struggles. So, and again, it's one of those where sometimes, as a Black person working in spaces where I am the only one, I can at times feel a little bit mad, because it's like, was I thinking that, or did the woman really just like screw up her face when I spoke every single time? Like, why is she always going on like she's got something in her eye when I'm talking, but every time you know what I mean? It's being able to have spaces where we can share that, so it's not, I don't have to hold it in my head. There's a space there to share it. And then when we face these obstacles together, it's almost like we have that whole courage together and that determination. And then this, like, as I said, the empowered resilience, where it's like we can still find strength collectively from things that we're experiencing. And I was almost going to say, like, to find, not the joy, but I know sometimes when I share things with my friends, I can find a little joke about it, you know, you know, a silver lining, something. So it's enabling us as Black professionals, as Black business owners, as, you know, community champions, to be able to have that resilience and that shared space. And then the third is that strategic success, because for me, sometimes one brain is better than one, always, really. So sometimes just being able to have that space where we can popcorn ideas can help us with that intentional growth. Because sometimes I feel that I definitely know for myself, I've been in spaces where I'm trying to survive all the time, and then I don't think of actually growing. So it's creating that space where we can collectively seek to grow, but one that honours my identity, my history, my future potential, so I don't have to sell out is my main thing. And I know I can sometimes speak a bit white. It's because my parents didn't allow me to speak in Patois too tough. Like, what is understanding, you know, sharing, having that shared experience, is what I would like. So that's pretty much all I was going to talk about and share with you guys today. It's whether or not it's a program that we could bring into Staffordshire Black Business. What I've got is just a couple of sheets that I was going to leave for people, but based on the pillars, and again, the pillars are very much work in progress, but what are some of those, when I went through them, are there any of those that actually really stood out to anybody where they thought, actually, I would really be interested in hearing more about that? Is there anybody that had any thoughts
I
on it?
think there's two for me.
Yeah.
The ancestral resilience and grit and grace.
Yeah.
Those two really stood out to me. I think having the idea, again, I'm still like discovering deeply who I am, and having that ancestral resilience. Okay, these are the people that survived before me. This is the legacy. This is how they've been doing. And they've had success despite whatever they've been through. Will help, fortify my blackness.
Yes.
As well. And grit and grace as well. Just understanding that bit more. Those two mainly stuck to me.
Yeah. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you. Anybody else?
I would say that what stands out for me is, let me put it this way, the necessity of that shared and safe space as Black people.
Yeah.
I think that we must have that to continually share experiences.
Yeah.
Because we face the same struggles.
Yeah.
For instance, you're trying to say it, you are in a meeting, you are not focusing because you are struggling with your perceptions and how you are reacting to it. And I see that a lot. My diction is not, someone has said to me openly that your enunciation is really poor, and then sometimes they just put it in, figuratively.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, maybe like I'm wondering. So in that moment you are distracted. So the point you're making is you have to not struggle. But that's who you are. Right? That's the way you speak. That's the way your parents, your ancestry. This is how your ancestry.
Yeah.
So these are experiences common to all of us. How do we deal with them? What's been your way to get out of it, to get past it? What's been our own solution? So for me, it's really key that this is something that I think that we should continually find a way to express.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess listening to the differentiation between them all, crying through the struggle is a big thing because it's, life. You guys all have come to Stoke. I was brought up and born in Stoke. So my experience of being in Stoke, and I say to people all the time, some people will take offence over it, and that's fine. But my experience is that, of all the places where I've lived and I've grown and developed, I think Stoke's probably the most racist city that I've had the privilege, and I'm saying it's a privilege because it's given me the resilience to deal with the playground stuff that we dealt with here when I go to places like Birmingham, because it's kind of like, well, you need to come better than that because we dealt with that at school, sort of thing. So there's something about crowding through the struggle for me that I think people need that resilience. And I say all the time that I got that resilience from being brought up in Stoke and going to school in Stoke. Like yourself, my parents wouldn't allow us to speak Patois. We all wanted to go to the black school where all the black people go and beating up teachers and not doing any lessons. My parents were like, no, you go to a proper school and get an education and things. And at the time we didn't see it, but obviously as adults now, I get it, and we're grateful for the opportunity that we had. And then the legacy of life, because I'm a firm believer, and I tell people all the time, if you're not at the table, how are you helping anybody else? And that sometimes I don't think we just don't get that, because we are a legacy of light, and if we're not round the table, and it doesn't matter what table it is, and it doesn't matter what they're supporting, if you're not there at all, you're not bringing anybody through.
Yeah, agree.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would also like to maybe add, or maybe this will come under the legacy of struggle, because I'm a very firm believer in speaking against injustice, and especially historical present day oppression, inequalities, opportunities that exist. And you were saying, for instance, I mean, you were talking about the label of angry Black woman, but there was a talk I went to by Clive Murray. You know him, Clive, the BBC reporter, the BBC guy. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock news. Yeah, man. He's now on. He now presents. What do you call it? The one where you're supposed to be really smart and in the chair.
Mastermind.
Mastermind, yeah. Clive, yeah. And he was saying, and this was when Colin Kaepernick had just started the Black Lives Matter movement, and he was kneeling, and everybody was like, "Why don't you just shut up and dribble? And why are you always angry? It's better than you have it so much better, because there's this thing, right? So whatever happens, we're supposed to be always happy and smiling, you see all these people going through poverty, but Black folks are supposed to be singing kumbaya, and just be happy, just be cheerful and grateful, and and I'm like, seriously? Anyway, so and so someone was saying, how do you get past that label? And he's like, listen, you have to own the label sometimes. Like, there are times, there is a time for everything, right? There's a time to be kumbaya and happy. And resilience also means you have to be happy within yourself no matter what's happening, and be of good cheer. But there's a time for taking up the whip, like Jesus, right? And there's a time for, being especially, like you said, when you're around folks who are sometimes openly and sometimes not so openly racist. I was giving that example, and someone just said something here. I've forgotten who mentioned that, this silence, like, you're sort of like asking, so there should be a procedure for something, right? And you keep trying to find a way, and you keep getting, pushed aside, you keep getting silence. From a Black business person point of view, and someone who studies entrepreneurship, I think that this happens a lot, your views don't get taken. You keep asking for information, you keep asking to do the right thing, and then you're not taken seriously. When you do the right thing, you get different outcomes. If you dress properly, this wouldn't happen. Now you have to do this. Now you're like, it doesn't end. And I think that's one of the reasons why we exist, right? So we're shedding a light on this thing. So historical present day injustices that exist, it happens to our members as well. A lot of them have stories, being stoned, being bullied by white folks. I remember we went to a member's house, and I'll just keep it private, and their moms were there, and these kids were insulted, and I was like, our own members had kids in the house, like they literally were throwing stuff at me, right? So just to try and diffuse the situation. And the moms might think it's just banter, but this stuff has psychological, it has physical implications. So and you're not supposed to react. So that's what I think. So this injustice always happens. You're just supposed to be always happy and kumbaya and just it just doesn't. So there is that. I don't know if that's a crown. If your crown is that you're happy through it or something. But
there's something within that. I mean, let's see where that can fit. But I suppose it could be around that defying the lie bit about white superiority and Black inferiority, because in a way, it would feed into the lie that because I am a black individual, I am inferior, therefore it doesn't matter if people
Yeah.
want to do this or that,
Yeah.
because, you know, so yeah, there's lots of ways that you can put it in. But for me, as I said, I wanted to kind of give it something to hold
Yeah.
without it being too prescriptive.
Yeah. I really like the ancestral resilience, and someone has
Oh,
said that. Because I mean, we do have to respect and just honor our ancestors that have got us here, because when you start to read and you start to read about some of the things
They went
they went through, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
like you're like, can't believe people can be this, this God, to other human beings. Why? Like literally. So we do I don't think we do that enough. One other thing that you do see, the way the media plays the story, when it's some folks, like there's so many movies about certain issues, but yeah, you're supposed to once again not talk about certain things and let it just go, it's in the past. But when you do read and you know about the things our ancestors have been through, once again, you know that we have no excuse
Yeah.
not to surpass that and take it to the next level for the guys coming after us. Yeah. So.
Yeah, thank you. That is that. Okay, all right. So that is basically looking at the fact that it is now 8 minutes to 5. That is my whole little thing there, really. So it is just a thank you very much, you guys, for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes.